On blast.
This is Ball on Blast, part of the On Blast Podcast Network, available on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. If you like it, then subscribe and tell your friends. Holla.
On blast.
Thank you. You're far too kind for tuning in once again to a little thing we like to call the Ball on Blast podcast. As always, my name is Sheldon Alexander, and I'm joined by my guy, Mr. Andrew Webster. Webby, what is good?
A lot of late nights, guys. A lot of late nights when you got the newborn, let me tell you. But hey, it's all good. We're breeding a new basketball fan here in the Webster household. She was up watching the attempted Lakers comeback last night. She's been really loving Tyler Herro in the Miami series. She's got her favorites, and she's got those that she's rooting against as well. We were both, my 1 month daughter and I, just laughing at Kawhi and Paul George and Patrick Beverly when the Clippers got eliminated. So we're raising a new breed of trash talker, and I gotta say, it was great to get all of the engagement from the fans of Ball on Blast, just telling me how right I was about Giannis. You guys don't know how many people reached out and were just like, you know what? You're right. Giannis is trash.
You know what? It's so true. There were so many comments and people were like, you're not wrong. There was a lot of that. And then there was like, nope, I full on agree, which I find hilarious because obviously, like, this era of media, right? Like, obviously Giannis is not trash, but like the point more so was just that he's overrated when it comes to the playoffs and how we crown star players before they're ready to be crowned as quote unquote the king. But speaking
is he better than Monty Morris? I don't know after last night.
I was going to say, speaking of getting ready to crown superstars, maybe there's another superstar that's here that's putting on in the playoffs that is ready to be crowned. And especially being a podcast that, of course, we're worldwide here on Ball on Blast on the On Blast Podcast Network. But
of course,
our home and native land is Canada. And Jamal Murray is putting on for not only Canada, but for Kitchener, Ontario. Stand up. The Denver Nuggets with the 114-106 victory to cut into the Lakers' lead in the Western Conference Finals, 2-1. Murray with 28 points, 12 assists, 8 rebounds, huge dunks, clutch shots, deep daggers, and swagger on 100,000 trillion. Mr. Andrew Webster, I'm going to just ask you, are you not entertained?
The deep triple over AD was nuts. The dunk was really good, like just kind of going coast to coast.
Yo,
that
the
was
screw face after the dunk.
Okay.
Like, I'm here for that.
But the shot was just big Sam Cassell nuts. It was absolutely huge. And I gotta say, like, my favorite thing is like when you hear the American announcers like, you know, Jamal Murray, they won't even try Kitchener. They'll just say Ontario, Canada. Because, like, if it's not Toronto, it may as well be an igloo for American announcers.
But this is why we got to put on for our own guys, right? And, like, bun what the Americans are saying. We know that we're putting on for our guy, and we're going to rep our guy. And we have been repping for our guy. And I think that's so important, right? When we do...
I'm here watching these games trying to figure out how the Sixers can get them. Right. Like, would Ben Simmons and a future first, maybe 2 firsts, be enough to get him to the Sixers? But this has to be like the best moment for Kitchener, Ontario in the history of mankind, because if you're from Ontario, you're from the GTA, like, Kitchener's got a pretty bad reputation in just being a janky spot, you know? Like, I've been there. Yeah. I've been to Kitchener. Yeah. It's not special.
We've all driven through Kitchener, right? We've all driven through there. It's an interesting place, but it was funny last night because, like, Jamal Murray was the top trending topic in Canada, and Kitchener was number 4. And I was just like, wait, what's this?
The highest it's been. The highest it's been.
But I was like, what are some of the other things you think of when I say Kitchener, Ontario, and not and not Jamal Murray. And I got some
was gonna
funny
say
responses
Waterloo.
on Twitter. Like, it was pretty good. Our guy Sonny, Big Thack, messaged in and said Lennox
Thack.
Lewis and Oktoberfest. Got a lot of Oktoberfest reactions. Someone else wrote in and said, this was actually pretty funny. Someone wrote in and said schnitzel and
Sauerkraut?
Sauerkraut. Wow, what's wrong with me? Schnitzel and sauerkraut. And then someone else commented on that saying, coincidentally, I had both for supper.
Amazing. Amazing.
Hey,
in Kitchener.
In Kitchener,
What-
bringing everything together, just good old Canadian boy Jamal Murray doing work, putting on for Kitchener, Ontario.
Putting Kitchener on the map. I love it. And, this is what I want, though. I need ESPN to do a little bit, do one of those stories where they go to, Jamal Murray's hometown and, send Harlow or somebody, send one of those reporters to do and then just have them be oh my God.
It's incredible, though, what this man has been able to do in the bubble. And you look at some of the numbers, Webby. Jamal Murray is shooting 72%, almost 73%. In fact, 8 of 11 from three-point range in clutch time this postseason, which is the best such percentage in a single postseason that ESPN Stats and Info made available in the data set to a minimum of 10 attempts. Think about that for a second.
It's nuts.
That is incredible. And for those who might not know, clutch time is with the score within 5 points in the game's final 5 minutes of play. So my guy, 73%. That's just insane.
When we think back to the NBA bubble and the stars that took that leap during this time, I think that there are 2 or 3 names that are going to come up. One of them is Jamal Murray, and then the other one is the guy that he had the great battles with a couple of rounds ago, Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
I think that kind of going forward in the NBA, that these guys are going to be looked to as kind of the next generation of superstars. Mm-hmm. Now, with Jamal Murray, we've seen these flashes with him before of him having these big games, these big moments.
Yeah.
But the thing with him has been keeping the consistency. He'll show up for a game 2, but then game 4 comes along and, he's 2 for 11, 4 for 17, and the shooting goes away. Now, so far, he's been really consistent, and like you say, those numbers in the fourth quarter are just insane. But it's going to be interesting to see, especially against this Lakers team, now a 2-1 deficit for the Nuggets. Does he come out next game to try and even the series, or will this be a Nuggets usual down 3-1 again and then have to dig themselves out of this hole?
Yeah.
But it'll be really interesting to see if he can do it 3, 4, 5 times in a row. And if he can, it's sky's the limit for this guy. He's going to make a ton of money, and there are going to be teams, the Nuggets are going to have to do a lot of kind of work here and there to see if they can keep him, because every team's going to be gunning for him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's re-upped, he's got his money, but the thing to me is, it was funny thinking, could the Raps trade for him? I was just thinking about this, the start of the playoffs builds up, and Jamal Murray, as we talk about all the time, there's levels to this, and I think he's taken a step into the next level, because when you think about it, one of the big things is, what do you do in the playoffs when it matters the most? And what do you do in winning time? And he's ticked both of those boxes. But I think the beauty of what happened in Game 3, Webby, was when you think of how he did it. So they were paced by other guys. Jokic took care of business early. Obviously, Jeremy Grant was getting busy. But Murray with 12 assists as well, and the 8 rebounds. That's finding other ways to contribute and then closing on the biggest stage. That to me is super impressive. So when you add in the fact we watched him go toe-to-toe with Donovan Mitchell, we watched him go toe-to-toe with Kawhi and the Clippers and take them out, come back from 3-1 down and just murder, death, kill them. Then you have him now going at the king in LeBron and his throne. This is just a great coming out party for Jamal Murray, and there were thoughts, I had dreams maybe at the beginning of these playoffs. Can Masai maybe go out and try to get Jamal Murray? Well, I reference this because I'm also currently rewatching The Wire, as I think I've mentioned on this pod a couple times. And you know that scene in season 4, when Marlo starts to take over and he gets up, he's having the meeting with all the other drug dealers, and he gets up and he's just like, oh yeah, and the price of the brick's about to go up and walks out, that's Jamal Murray's agent right now. That's the Denver Nuggets right now. The price of the brick is going up because you're not getting Jamal Murray anymore. Like, he's taken that leap. You can't let him go. If you're the Nuggets, you were always worried about consistency, but now you're seeing him consistently do it on the biggest stage. As a Canadian basketball fan, you love to see it. But you mentioned, can they do this, man?
We also can't, like, it's not just him doing this.
No, not at all.
You talk about another guy who shows up late when it counts, is Jokic.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Nuggets really need to, if they want to keep Murray, I think that the key for them is keeping both of those guys around.
For sure. That's a solid duo.
Because the complementary like attributes of each player, they play so well together, and it's not like the Sixers. Sorry to use the Sixers as another example. Whereas you've got Embiid and Simmons, and they both live in the lane, and it's tough to then spread it around and spread the floor, and then your whole offense is messed up. With Jokic and Murray, it's like their skill set complements each other so well that when they both have it going in the fourth quarter or late or when they're down 3-1, it's really special to watch. And they're playing another team who has another great duo in AD and LeBron, but this series seems to come down to, as good as those four guys are, it's these secondary players. Like
the
last
others,
night we saw,
as Shaq says.
Yeah, last night we really saw, and listen, Jamal Murray was amazing late, but I really think that Jeremy Grant and Monty Morris won that game for the Nuggets.
Yeah.
And
they set it up giving
Rondo,
Jamal Murray a chance to close, right? Like, without those guys, Jamal Murray doesn't get the chance to close. I know it's a blowout win, but we've seen times where teams give up that lead, and then it's panic time. Then you turn to your big boys, right?
Well, they did. Yeah. They did give up the lead.
Yeah.
Like, and on the other side, it's Rondo can show up for a game. It's Caruso can kind of have these little moments, or Caldwell Pope can hit a couple of big threes. So it's those complementary players, like who is going to show up to, like you say, give those stars the chance to perform late.
Totally. And you look at Jeremy Grant, and he puts up 26 points on 7 of 11 shooting, but also getting to the free throw line. My guy attempted 12 free throws. I don't know if that's something that you can bank on continuously, like if you look into the next round, right? Or the next games, pardon me. But you're talking about secondary scoring, and when you're getting it from Jokic, you're getting it from Jamal Murray, who is going to be that third guy for the Nuggets? But you can ask the exact same question as you just mentioned about the Lakers. And if we flip gears here, let's be serious. Anthony Davis hits a crazy buzzer beater at the end of game 2, right? Now, a lot of breakdown about how much your guy Plumlee messed up, which I'm not going to fully blame Plumlee on that.
No, because in that video you see, I think it's Jeremy Grant pointing to LeBron, and he's like, I'm going to need help on LeBron, because they totally thought that James was going to get the ball there.
So if you break it down, what's actually going on in that play, I'm so glad you brought up that video, right? Because the zoom in, you can see, and I think it was one of the broadcasts, whoever was broadcasting the game, ESPN or TNT, they have the feed where it's like an ISO cam only on LeBron. Right? So if you just watch that feed from the very beginning, you can tell what the play is supposed to be is LeBron and AD are supposed to screen for each other. LeBron's supposed to roll to the basket. They're going to look for the lob. And if that's not there, the second look is to Anthony Davis. The problem is LeBron didn't even move. Like LeBron was like, no. Like, I'm not taking the lob. They're going to be all over that. And he just kind of stood there, which threw off Jeremy Grant, which threw off Plumlee. So I know everyone, the easy thing is ripping Plumlee. What did he do? But he was so worried on LeBron, and let's be serious. Can you be mad at him for being worried for LeBron rolling to the basket?
Especially with Anthony Davis behind the line. I know he's like really improved as a three-point shooter, but in all reality, when there's however many seconds there were there, I mean, you're definitely way more focused on LeBron James, somebody who's you've seen make that shot time in and time out, than you are about Anthony Davis. who was a good foot behind the line. Like that was big 3-pointer for him.
That was a massive three for Anthony Davis. You got to give credit where credit's due for him to step out and knock down that three, take that shot with confidence too, because I think that's the part, right? Like he was ready to shoot it. He
wasn't scared.
And I give LeBron a lot of credit. I know LeBron gets a lot of flack for sometimes being what's the word I'm searching for here? Like LeBron always kind of playing to the media or like pushing narratives or whatever. But if you actually listen to LeBron in the post game, a lot of the times he's dropping gems on you. He's dropping basketball knowledge. And he said they had the exact same situation just before the regular season shut down. And Anthony Davis, they ran the same play and Anthony Davis missed a three. And LeBron says he told him after that, he's like, dude, like, I'm okay with that. Like you take that shot, whether you hit it or miss it, I'm fine with that. You put in the work, and when you put in the work, you're able to live with the results. And I'm never going to be mad at you for missing a shot at the end of the game because I know the work that you put in. So he told him, hey, take that shot. And I think that's part of it where LeBron sits there and he's not even moving. He's like, no. I want AD to shoot that shot, knowing that the chess game that LeBron's playing, LeBron knows he needs AD to be the guy, right? Deep down, LeBron knows that.
You were saying the chess game that he plays. I mean, and that's exactly it. It's missing that shot and then being the kind of leader to then be like, listen, that's your shot. You take that. And so then the next time Anthony Davis has that confidence in him, well, LeBron says it's my shot. I can make it, and even those little things mentally, like that can be the difference of that shot going in and that shot not going in.
And he hits the shot and he's yelling Kobe and everyone's hype. Like it was a great scene. But then you flip off of that, a great playoff moment for Anthony Davis, a great career moment for Anthony Davis. And then you come back in the next game, game 3, and this is where the naysayers like myself, who's been proven wrong so far as the Lakers are obviously the favorites to win the chip right now. But I'm worried about the consistency of Anthony Davis and can he bring it night in, night out? And he comes back in game 3, puts up 27 points. Cool. But then you look at 43 minutes, 2 rebounds.
He had 0 rebounds through 3 quarters. How is that possible when you're that big and that athletic? Now, I know that Jokic has that body that's tough to get around, especially when he's boxing out, and Jeremy Grant was amazing, and he's high energy, but against the Nuggets, if you're Anthony Davis, you should be cleaning the boards.
Yeah.
That should really be, after, getting to the rim, should be your second objective. You have such an advantage with your size and your athleticism, and it's such an important part of the game. Like, how many times, whether it's pro or college or high school or even, getting a run in at the gym with your buddies, rebounding is so important. And for you to be 7 feet and having no rebounds through 3 quarters, it's a huge disadvantage for your team. You're putting your team at a disadvantage by not using your size.
And you mentioned, against the Nuggets, I think in any game period, Anthony Davis should be able to roll out of bed and get you 5 rebounds a night
10.
by accident.
10.
Right? And so when I look at the box score and you see Anthony Davis with 2 rebounds, players that had more rebounds in this game than Anthony Davis, LeBron, Danny Green doubled them, Caldwell Pope, Rondo had the exact same amount. I go over to the Nuggets and Paul Millsap, Jeremy Grant, Jokic, Jamal Murray, Plumlee had the same amount off the bench. Michael Porter Jr. had more. Craig had more. That's unacceptable.
Craig
had,
and look at the minutes too that David. It's not like he was getting cheaped out on minutes.
No,
I mean, he was playing.
Minutes.
What did you say? 43 minutes. That's insanity.
So you expect or you hope the bounce back happens because this is the thing, right? He knows he's going to hear all the feedback. LeBron and all them are going to be telling him. Do you know what I mean? We're going to know exactly what is going on and what we're going to hear about just the Lakers and what they need from Anthony Davis because they need more from him in that, you got to go at Jokic. You got to be aggressive and be in the paint and dominate the paint at the same time. So this series, I mean, the Nuggets, they're close to being up 2-1 themselves in the series. And I know the math isn't always 1 + 1 = 2. Like, just because they lose game 2 doesn't mean they come back and win game 3. Do you know what I mean? Like, the math doesn't have to necessarily be the same, but I think we're in for a good series. I don't know what's going to happen, but we know the Nuggets are not going to go down without a fight.
Even if they lose the next game and go down 3-1, we know that that's pretty much they're going to have them right where they want them. You know,
a couple things that I think we should pay attention to, though, going forward in this series is just LeBron. LeBron, we talk about stats just being able to get when you walk out of bed, and you see LeBron still putting up numbers. But the Lakers as a team looked exhausted down the stretch.
You're absolutely right. Even just they had an ISO shot of LeBron early fourth quarter, hands on his knees, and you could see the shoulders going up and down. And I was thinking to myself, it was like, I've never really seen that a lot from LeBron unless we're talking game 7 of the finals. But like, yeah, you're right. But listen, again, I always make this comparison. LeBron and I are the same age, and it hurts me to get out of bed sometimes. So I can't really blame the guy for being tired. Oh. I'm tired, and I'm watching him play.
No. Here's the thing. LeBron, so some things we might forget, right? Go back to LeBron's last playoff run in Cleveland. And we talked about the stats at the time for our OG Ball on Blast listeners. We talked about the stats in terms of LeBron and the pace of play. And he was so good because the stats showed you that he played at the slowest pace. I think it was like the second slowest pace of anybody else in the playoffs. And that's because he was walking the ball up the court. He was able to rest on defense. He was able to do all these things to keep the game at his pace. Now in this NBA, 2 years later, how much things have changed in terms of running up and down and the possessions, and even just the change in the shot clock. You know, it resets to only 14. Like, there's so many more possessions. It's a lot harder for him to do that. But he's also 2 years older. And I'm going to be okay with LeBron running out of gas. I might even be okay with Rondo running out of gas because he's just now coming back off an injury. The rest of them dudes like Kuzma, AD, y'all don't got no excuse. Y'all can't be tired. No. Y'all are chasing this ring. Y'all got to be ready, right?
The one guy on that team, though, who to me almost never seems tired, other than, I mean, Rondo kind of did fade away, but he was great in the fourth quarter, I thought, last night. But my guy Caruso is just like a spark plug,
Your
man.
Boy, Caruso.
He's like Dellavedova.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's just grit.
Yo, the dunks, when Caruso's getting dunks and everyone starts going crazy, I'm always just like, guys, he just dunked it. Like, I get it. He's like a white guy and he's balding, but like he's in the NBA.
Looking.
Right?
It's true. But I mean, like, those like Dellavedova kind of guys, the like those gritty, they always have a story, you know, and it's funny, like LeBron tends to find those guys and like gets the best out of them, like gets them to play way above what their skill set is. So and Caruso never seems tired to me. Like, he might not be great, but at least he's like putting it in. I can't say the same for Kuzma, man. Like, this is somebody who
he's hit or miss.
Laker fans especially were like, oh man, when Kuzma gets it going, it's over, guy. And I don't know, man.
Hasn't happened at
the
all.
other one is Danny Green, too, man. What happened to Danny Green? Every time that shot goes up, last year with the Raptors, it was like, oh, in the corner, Danny Green, let's go. Like, that's cash. Now it's like, I don't know whether he's in his own head or what, but man, it's ugly to watch.
It's not a good look for Danny Green. And I mean, if you think about it, he started taking a downward turn from the end of his run with the Raps. So this isn't really that surprising at all. But, you know, you think about the Caruso angle and you talk about those dudes with LeBron. LeBron is just really good at identifying roles. And a story came out recently. I think they were talking about, was it Kevin Love? A story came out recently just talking about what LeBron does when he has like team meetings, and he basically goes to every dude on the team and tells them, hey, this is what I need from you. This is how you're going to succeed. This is how you're going to be better served for our team's success. And some dudes can't handle that. Obviously, we know Kyrie left. Kevin Love also talked about how tough that was. But if you're one of those role players and you understand what your role is, you're going to be able to ride. Look, JR's still making money off LeBron, right? So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Can you imagine LeBron comes in the meeting? It's like, all right, JR, here's what I need from you. I need you to be our biggest cheerleader. And I need you to wave that towel around for every basket that we make, okay?
Yeah.
And JR's like, are the checks still coming in? Can I still buy the Hennessy? Is that? I'll do whatever you want.
So speaking of LeBron, there was a little drama surrounding LeBron. And you mentioned it off the top of this show, right? So not Anthony Davis. You were bigging up Anthony Davis, but
Yeah.
Giannis.
That's a Freudian slip right there.
Yes,
Freudian slip.
right? Giannis was named NBA MVP. And there's a lot of talk and discussion about who deserved it and all that stuff. And how do you base your votes, all that fun stuff. But LeBron, okay, saying that he was pissed off, close quote, about MVP voting, tweeted out, laughing emoji, 16 out of 101. A shrug emoji, and okay, cool, I got y'all. Now, I know where you stand on this, but what do you make of LeBron going to Twitter to voice his displeasure with only receiving 16 out of 101 first place votes for MVP?
I love it. I absolutely. It's so funny to me. Like, and then he was like, listen, he's like, you know what? I've got no problem with Giannis winning MVP. Well, if you have no problem with Giannis winning MVP, then what? All of this is just to motivate yourself, right? Mm-hmm. That's what this is. This isn't he's actually upset. There's no way. What this is to, like, we see this with Jordan. Mm-hmm. Did this all the time. Oh, I took that personal.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's what this is. This is LeBron trying to motivate himself. Now, to us, to the media and stuff, sure, it sounds like, well, I didn't even want it anyway, but now, you know, that's kind of what it seems like. But I just kind of saw it for him motivating himself to get ready for this series, especially against this opponent like Denver, where you saw Barkley with the broom out, like everybody's expecting them to roll right over Denver, and so the MVP voting, I think, is a big motivating factor. But I think after what happened last night, I don't think he needs that motivating factor. I think what we're going to see in the next game is one of those LeBron, at least at the beginning, we're going to see him out and try to, like, really put his stamp on the game early, hit some of those deep threes that we see LeBron like to take. I know he was trying to work some of that mid-range last night, but I think it'll be more him driving and more shooting three-pointers to see if he can get a big early lead from the Lakers.
I just love it. Do you know what? Honestly, I just love it because it's why we love the NBA. And LeBron is the epitome of that. We here doing this podcast, one of the reasons we love it is because the drama, right? Like, the NBA players are so vocal about whatever's on their mind, and we love them for that because we feel like we know these guys, right? And that's why, you know, to us, it's the best league in the world. That's why to us, we figure out ways to get together and talk about the NBA every week because it's so good. And LeBron being the best player in the world and epitomizing that in the NBA, right? The trickle-down effect of that is obviously incredible. So, hey, for me, give us more content, LeBron. I love it. I love him being honest about it. I don't need the cliche of him coming out and being like, oh, well, you know, yeah, Giannis had a good season and, you know, we're focused on the championship. No. Yeah. Tell me the smoke. Give me the juice. Tell me that you're cheesed. And speaking of the juice, though, because we can't gloss over the Western Conference and the Nuggets series and not mention the Clippers. Because, first off, the Clippers lost since we've last talked. And I think when we talked last, I was like, there's no way the Clippers can lose.
Didn't just lose. One of the most epic Game 7 pants crappings that I can remember. Totally. I mean, this was, honestly, the last one that shocked me this much in watching the game was Boston getting LeBron and the Cavs out in 2009
Yeah.
before he went to Miami. Mm-hmm. That was shocking to me because I thought that it was over. But I think that was only 6 games.
Yeah,
I
that was
don't
game
even think
6.
that was
That
7.
was game 6, yeah.
This was game 7, everything on the line, and to see a playoff performer like Kawhi Leonard absolutely not have it after we've seen him time in and time out in this situation rise to the occasion, and to see him not have it was shocking.
It's crazy.
It was crazy. Now, the other one that was shocking to me was Paul George, lemon booty, with the corner 3 hitting the side of the backboard. How does that happen? You're like, I've already used the bullet in the chamber with Giannis and calling him out as trash. I don't need to do that about Paul George.
Yeah.
More people have done that about Paul George, more eloquently. He's trash.
Here's the thing. Hold on. No. I'll let you go. No, go on. I'll let you go.
What has he done? It's like Giannis. At least, unlike Giannis, at least Paul George has made it to a conference finals. Okay, with the Pacers.
Early PG, yeah.
Exactly. Different time in the NBA, but at least he's been there. But even when he was there, trash. These guys deserve each other. They should put Paul George and Giannis on the same team. They'd have the best regular season record, and they'd lose in the first round.
Paul George.
Put Chris Paul on that team too.
Oh wow! Hold on. Whoa! Slow down with this with the point guard slander. But I mean, Paul George. Here's the thing: when you're in crunch time, shooting the ball off the side of the backboard on a wide open 3, that was a moment that I was like, "Oh wow, they're gonna lose this game." Like I never thought the Clippers were gonna lose. I thought they were gonna come back, and then they started off that fourth quarter slowly, and then I was just like, oh, wow, they're going to lose this game. And it happened.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to happen, but here we are. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about here a bit. And I know it's been a week since this happened, but Raptors fans, can we take a step back?
Raptors fans, chill out.
Yeah.
Let's do this for a second.
Can we take a step back?
Chill out.
Because
you do not treat Kawhi Leonard like that at all. Because he got you a championship, and then to prey on his downfall, like T Grizzly, I'm not here for it. Like this is a guy that you're gonna put. People were like, should we put a jersey in the rafters when he retires? Should we build a Kawhi statue for bringing us? And then as soon as he faces a little adversity in losing a game 7 to a team that's really good, now you wanna do this to Kawhi. No. And real basketball heads on Twitter and around, they were not having it.
Yes. No, I totally agreed. I just think it was a weird situation because Raptors fans were trying to tell us that they weren't cheering against Kawhi or they weren't making fun of Kawhi. They were making fun of the Clippers. And my response was, but the Clippers lost because Kawhi played bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's why the Clippers lost. Kawhi was 14 points in game 7. 14. He was 1 of 10 in the second half. That's a big reason why the Clippers lost that game. And if you go back to the series, in the second half of that series, my guy averaged 9 points on 35% shooting from the field in the second half of that series against the Nuggets. So all these people were trying to tell me, or they were flooding on Twitter saying that, well, we're not making fun of Kawhi. We're making fun of the Clippers. And why did he go to the Clippers?
Original.
And it's just like, hold on. Let's rewind this story. Let's rewind the book here. Kawhi going to the Clippers, we know that it was more than just about basketball, right? And people can leak out these narratives of now, rehashing, oh, well, at the time, sources said that Kawhi didn't think that Toronto had enough to repeat, right? Okay, cool. Are we really going to play the hindsight game and act as if Kawhi going to the Clippers, we didn't think that team was going to be better than the Raptors if Kawhi stayed? Like, we're going to play hindsight on that? And you're going to diss Lou Will and Paul George and all those guys for how it floundered. Cool, I get that. But let's not forget, the Clippers lost because Kawhi played bad. if Kawhi played bad for the Raptors would have lost too, right? I keep having to remind people of this because people are like, what are you talking about? Fred had this big game and Pascal had this big game. And it's like, you know what?
Kyle played like this.
And it's like, you know what? Cool. But our memories can't be that bad, can they? Like,
Right.
It's not that long ago that, I don't know, the exact same situation happened with Kawhi on the Toronto Raptors. And do you know when that was? The second round of the end of the Eastern Conference playoffs, where Kawhi was playing against the Sixers, and you know what? A game 7. And do you know what happened? Kawhi dropped 40. He dropped a 40 piece. And the Raptors still needed 4 bounces to win that game 7. Do you know why?
The rest of the Raptors were not ready for that game. That's the thing. And if they didn't have Kawhi Leonard, it would have been a blowout the other way. It would have been a blowout for the Sixers. You're exactly right. The Raptors last year needed every part of Kawhi Leonard. They needed everything that he gave.
So my whole point to the whole thing was just, and I was going back and forth with fans, and hey, I love going back and forth with fans on Twitter. My whole thing was, I get the fun and jokes. I get the slander. I understand that. But I'm not here for the total lies, right? And when people say things like, oh, well, the Raptors supporting cast was way better. It's like, no. The Raptors supporting cast and the Clippers supporting cast. If Kawhi plays bad, you lose. If Kawhi plays good, you win. Like, these are just facts. Like, we watched it happen last year. If Kawhi dropped 14 points in any game last year, chances are the Raptors were going to lose, right? And people are like, oh, well, the Raptors wouldn't have blown a 3-1 lead. It's like, guys, they were down 2-1 against Philly, and Kawhi went out and dropped like 38, 12, and whatever in game 4 to even up the series and not be down 3-1. You're talking about blowing 3-1 leads. Like, we just watched this all. So you being salty, like, on the Clippers, okay? That doesn't change that the Raptors also lost in the second round, okay? Right. You being salty about the Clippers.
That's what I didn't understand. Why did Kawhi and the Clippers losing in the second round validate how the Raptors performed in the playoffs? I couldn't understand.
I don't understand it because you know what validates what the Raptors did? The championship ring.
Yeah.
Like, after that, and your team was still good afterwards, cool. Be happy. Focus on what's next. The slander of, like, laughing at the Clippers, it's like, I get it, but I'm not here for the lies. And the lies were, oh, well, Pascal would never do that in a game 7. It's like, Pascal had 11 points in the exact same situation last year. Game like, 7. Talk to me about facts. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to the people. Use your platforms responsibly. That's all I'm saying here. That's all I'm saying.
You know what it is, though? And you bring this up all the time. It's Toronto, Screwface Capitalism. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. It's just, there's so many people coming up saying the Raps, if they were up 3-1, you think that they could have gotten past Kawhi playing poor. And I'm like, listen, guys, reminder, Raptors were down 2-1 in Philly. Kawhi had 39 points, hit 5 threes, 14 rebounds, and shot 65% to tie the series at 2. That happened just last year. Right? Yeah. If he doesn't do that, they're down 3-1 to Philly. And it's probably over. And that's still before the 4 bounces and 41 points in game 7.
After 41 points, yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? And then you even have to go to the Bucks series to where game 3 in Toronto, Raptors down 2-0 in that series. We're not talking about blowing 3-1 leads. We're talking about you're down 2-0 in the series. Kawhi in double OT, 36, 9, and 5. If he doesn't do that, the Raptors are down 3-0.
3-0.
So again, we're talking about supporting Cass and making fun of the Clippers. Cool. But I'm just here to remind you of the facts. The facts are a huge reason why the Clippers lost is because Kawhi dropped 14 points in a game 7. And what should be more important to Raptors fans is, I don't know, the fact that Kawhi Leonard could leave after next season. And if you played your cards right, Raptors fans, and played this in a more positive light in terms of celebrating what Kawhi did here and celebrating the fact that, hey, you'll always be a legend here, maybe he might want to come back in a year if you played your cards right and didn't hit the internet with all this slander for no reason because, again, the man brought you a championship.
Yeah, he won't want to come back if he reads the Menchies.
Sorry, but I had to get that off my chest because I was fired up about that last week, and I didn't understand.
It's a great point.
I thought the saltiness from the Raptors fan base would at least come down a few notches after winning a championship, and it's like, nope, still here, salty as ever. It's like, you have a ring.
No, you don't get to be Philly level of salty when it comes down to this. You guys won. That's not fair.
But with that all said, though, Webby, I am here for the jokes. And the Clippers are still providing us with these jokes. And
oh boy.
So after the game,
Paul George is providing me with the jokes.
So after the game, Paul George, after the Clippers, this is from Shams. After the Clippers elimination, Paul George was preaching to teammates to stay committed and ready for another run. And it was met by eye rolls and bewilderment from his other teammates. That was from Shams. Hold on, there's one more. Chris Broussard says, quote, I've been told by some of the Clippers role players that they actually think they're as good as Paul George, and they're having problems with the special treatment he's gotten from Doc. They can handle Kawhi getting special treatment because for the most part, he's delivered. Yo.
Bro, that's 100% Patrick Beverley. That's 100% Patrick Beverley. That's guaranteed.
Patrick Beverley can't talk about anything, and Russ was right for the record. I know people don't like Russ, but Russ told people, Patrick Beverley be fooling y'all, running around talking all that noise, fooling y'all into thinking he's playing defense.
It's the shot of what's it? Well, I forget which Morris and Patrick Beverley on the sidelines laughing after Dame missed the free throws. And it's just so, that's just, it's so
Dame
perfect.
and
every time
CJ
I
just
see it
on
now.
fire that night on Twitter.
Oh my God, we got to talk about how great CJ McCollum was during that collapse down the stretch.
So good.
That was a must. That was like an all-time Twitter moment. He was on fire. He's never shot the ball that well. That's how on fire he was.
That night of Twitter with Dame and CJ just trading back, because if you remember and go back to Dame hitting the shot over Paul George to eliminate OKC from the playoffs last season, waving by, and then in the postgame, Paul George said that was a bad shot. So someone, quote, added Dame Lillard with Paul George shooting it off the backboard and being like, does this look like a good shot? Dame was like, looks good to me. Yo, I love this league so much. Dame and CJ on Twitter just fully just like enjoying the jokes and giving us the jokes. That's why this league is the best, right?
It's so good.
Hey, we got room in Cabo if you guys still want to join us. So good, man. I love this league.
What I love, too, about this league is that it's not like any other league where all these players are watching these games, and they're so young and, like, adept at social media that it's like watching along. Honestly, that Game 7 felt like I was watching it with 10,000 people, or however many people I follow, and one of them was CJ McCollum, and the other was Dame Lillard. It felt like watching it with those guys.
Yeah.
That's so cool about this league. It's amazing, and we may not get to it in this show, but Billy Donovan hired by the Bulls, and I saw this clip this morning of Zach LaVine was playing Call of Duty on Switch, so like or Twitch. Sorry, that's how old I am. Twitch. So he's broadcasting himself playing the game as he finds out that that he's got a new coach. And that's like just that level of engagement through social media is so cool and so different and so new and keeps the NBA on the precipice, on the cusp of newness, I guess, for lack of a better word. But it's just amazing. It's amazing.
And one of the most amazing things to come out of that, and again, the Dame and CJ jokes just going back and forth, because if you remember the moment you brought up of Pat Bev and Morris, whichever Morris is on the Clippers.
Whichever Morris.
Making fun of Dame missing free throws. And then it led to the Twitter beef with Pat Bev and Paul George saying 1, 2, 3 Cancun for the Blazers. And then the comeback around now of Dame and CJ leading the internet Twitter mob, or NBA Twitter, just laughing at the Clippers collapse, because it is one of the biggest collapses ever. And them just laughing about, hey, I still got room on the PJ if you guys want to join me in Cabo. I haven't booked it yet. Like, it's incredible. But again, I always big up the Inside the NBA folks on TNT because it's just incredible. And one of the things they do is Gone Fishing. And if you haven't seen
those pictures are great.
The photo that they put out, I'll post it online, or maybe I'll put it up in the video that you can see on this YouTube video. But the picture of Paul George and Kawhi, they're all in Cancun, and this might be the best one ever. There's so many things going on in the photo. You got Pat Beverly running on the beach in Tim's. You have, and then you have Dame and CJ like sitting on the thing, like watching him, yelling "damn" as he runs by, like from the Friday scene. Dame is there laughing. You have Lemon Pepper Lou munching on wings under the Spanish Magic City sign, which is incredible, right? You have the Jaw scene, gonna need a bigger boat. Doc on the boat with Ballmer. It's just
what was
incredible.
The boat? What was the boat called? The
boat's called
something
3-1. Then we're done.
Yeah, 3-1. Then we're done.
You have Wilson in the water, and then you have the Death Star hiding in the clouds. Like, there's so much going on in this photo. It's so good. Inside the NBA is the best show. Like, I love that show so much. It gives me so much entertainment because I love the NBA, and I love that they're able to give us the jokes, but also give you the breakdown of what's actually going on in the league. And hopefully we're able to provide just a little bit of that here as well on the Ball on Blast podcast. A little bit.
We don't quite have the star power of a Charles or a Shaq, but I like to think we got the jokes.
Hey.
I like to think that we're kind of kin to them, you know, with the jokes that they got.
I hear you.
I think last night I heard Barkley called Shaq soft because he got swept in the playoffs with Orlando, and I was like, nah, this show is amazing.
Those guys are the best. It's so good. Them making fun of Billy Donovan, it was so funny. Barkley was like, why do you take that job? That's a horrible job. Like, why do you take? And I just love the honesty, right? Like, no matter what, it's their raw thoughts at the time, and then they make fun of themselves for their terrible predictions that they made throughout the whole year. But it's all fun. It's so good. It's so good.
Charles's predictions are just as soon as he says something, bet the opposite.
Right.
He had the broom out after game one. I was like, ugh, this is...
Oh, yeah. It's so good. But also so good is the Eastern Conference. And, you know...
We haven't even gotten
to the East, and we're kind of going to go through this a little quickly because we're doing this before the game's about to air, obviously. But at this point, the Heat are up 2-1 in the series. But this is where NBA basketball series are made, in this sweet spot between games 3 to 5, right? Because that's when the adjustments come in. And you know that the Celtics getting back Gordon Hayward was obviously going to make a difference in game 3, and it did. But the adjustments battle between Stevens and Spo, it's just incredible. And
a coaching chess match. It's amazing.
It's so good. The Heat took the early 2-0 lead in the series, and it was that Heat culture grinded out, and Jimmy Buckets winning it late. Huge block by Bam, one of the best blocks in playoff history. Just, it's been a great series so far. And at this point, though, heading into game 4, right? The battle of the adjustments. What we saw in game 3, and I want to see how much this continues, was the adjustment made from Brad Stevens, in which what he did was he took Theis and moved him out of the paint, or moved him from the top of the key, and just had him stand in the corner. And what that did was it moved Bam from the middle of the paint and opened everything up. And you just saw Tatum, Brown, Kemba all driving to the basket. They were super aggressive. The adjustment was clear. They weren't settling for threes. They might have taken some, but the game plan was, we're getting in the paint, we're getting to the basket. And then you add that on top of Gordon Hayward being an added playmaker. I don't know. I see this, like, even if Miami goes up 3-1 to, like, in game 4, I still see this being a long series because Boston now, with Hayward, they kind of figured things up. And I want to see the chess pieces moved again and what Spo has in store. But what have you made of the series so far, Webby?
Just even this series being 2-1 in favor of Miami feels like it's tied 2-2. There's something about, again, like I said it when we were talking about the beginning of the series, just the talent that the Celtics have, getting Hayward back now too. It just seems like, man, like the Heat are going to have to pull out all the stops. But what the Celtics did in getting Hayward back and, like you say, attacking the paint was like taking a page out of what Miami did. and then use it for themselves. And now we're also seeing what's great with these two coaches is that they're switching back and forth between man and zone so much in the different situations of the game that it's crazy. It's like back and forth. Like the Heat will go into zone and then have a little bit of success and then start to go away from it, and then the Celtics will start to use it too. It's unbelievable. You're absolutely right about the coaching going on in this. But the other thing is the coaching by the players.
Okay.
Now, I know we're going to talk about this, but my boy Marcus Smart, after what came out about him going nuts in that locker room, that, along with getting Hayward back, but that really seemed to light a fire under the Celtics. And every time I see this guy play and how hard he plays, whether it's pretty or not, or he's flopping or the shots are, it's like, this is a guy, we said it before, it's like, this is a guy that every team needs for them to be successful, is like this guy who's got talent but is also never going to take a play off and is always going to play defense and is always going to play hard and is not afraid to get in those guys' faces who have the talent on the team and tell them to smarten up and play better.
Yeah, I mean, he is that irrational confidence guy that Simmons always talks about, right? But to have him have that moment, it can only go one of two ways, right? And I think you got to know how your team chemistry is, right? Because that can make or break it. But if you know ahead of time, hey, sometimes you do need to call these dudes out, and that will just force them to step up, that'll lead to a positive reaction. Hey, sometimes that's needed. And being down 2-0 early on in the series, it was huge. It's a huge move, and you see the reaction. They came out, they played a lot better, and it was more aggressive. And Marcus Smart, at the end of the day, whether he's yelling, whether he's, being a pest or whatever, if you're the rest of the Celtics, you got to respect it, because you see that guy busting his ass on the court, and they need that, and they love that. So great series so far. And again, even if it goes up 3-1, all of these games have been so close down to the wire that why can't a team come back from 2-0 down or 3-1 down and push it to 6 or 7 games? So I thought this has been a great, great, great series.
The other one, too, is I think the reason that it feels like Boston has this series tied or is even winning it is because they've been winning most of these games. I think they've held a lead for like 75 or 80% of the time that they've been on the court. Yeah. So it's really a testament to what Miami does and to not get too down on themselves in the face of adversity. And I think that has a lot to do with Jimmy Butler, but I think it also has to do with the young players that they have on that team. Your Duncan Robinson, obviously Harrow, Bam. These guys honestly don't know any better. And then to follow the lead of somebody like Jimmy, who a lot like Marcus Smart isn't afraid to, lead by example and get in the face. That's a big, big factor for Miami. I can't tell you, and I know you do too, Tyler Harrow
so good.
Is a stud, man. 20 years old and he's still doing this. It's like he is so unafraid of the moment. It's insane.
I love the confidence they have in him. Like, they have the confidence to let him just cook. And whether it was crunch time, whether it's just, they're down in the game and they need a comeback, they insert him in the game for energy. He comes in and gets buckets. And I say this all the time, but his game is just so smooth, right? Like, you could tell my guy's in the gym because actually, someone posted a video. Was it the Heat Twitter account? And it was him and Duncan Robinson just doing like a shooting drill. And the video was like 2 minutes long. And I don't think they missed a shot. Like, it was just insane. Like them just going in a row. But Hero, when you add in, because he has his offensive game's a little more polished in terms of he has a more handle. He can get to the cup. A little more. Yeah. His game is just nice. And the one key factor for Miami that I think is big with them having the extra days off was the big factor for them has been the play of Goran Dragic. And Dragic has been kind of hobbled in the last game. He didn't look that good in game 3. And you think about that, you saw the knee brace, and anytime you see that, you kind of worry about it. But he didn't really play well in game 3, and he's been such a huge key factor for their playoff run. And so you hope that he's feeling a bit better if you're a Heat supporter heading into game 4 and for the rest of the series, because that's also a reason why you saw so much Hero down the stretch. Yes, he was playing well, but Dragic wasn't.
they need Dragic to have a little bit of that veteran. And another veteran is Iggy is banged up. I don't know if he's going to play tonight or what his status is for the rest of the series, but I know he doesn't give you what he used to give you back in the day, but that's still a guy that the Heat could really use out there because of that balance that they have between the young guys and the vets.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. The playoffs have been amazing, and I think, from the angle of us as Canadians, we don't really care who ends up making it to the finals because it's something that's going to be exciting for us to root for and cheer for, in terms of, even if, obviously the NBA and stateside, they want the Lakers, obviously the LeBron storyline, but for us, bring on Jamal Murray and Jokic, right? Like, real NBA heads, I think, will still enjoy that regardless. And then in the East, either of those teams, it'll be a great fight in the finals. So the playoffs have just been great. Like, I've enjoyed this way more than I thought I have. I'm already trying to think about, what happens when the playoffs are over, right? Like, what's going to happen then? And then I think, free agency. The draft. Right? So the clock just doesn't stop.
I haven't even thought about the draft. All I know is that there's another ball kid coming out, and that's it. That's it. Like, that's all I know.
Amazing. One other thing that I want to bring up as we move and we close every episode with our Ask on Blast segment, one thing we also do sometimes is a recommendation. And I just want to ask, have you seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix?
No, not yet. I need to.
So we'll put that as our recommendation. Must watch for people who, do anything on social media. You have a Facebook account, or you have kids who have a Facebook account, or whatever. You're on social media. You should watch this to gain a better understanding of exactly what social media is. Because it might come on as a downer, but I feel like if you have an understanding of what it is, it might change people's behaviors of what they get from it. I'll say that as a tease because I don't want to give away too much, and we'll reconvene and talk about it another time. But
so now, for the Ask on Blast segment, I want to ask, what's your record now with the I'll name this football pod later?
So football picks, I think, through 2 weeks. I posted it the other day. I don't know if I still have it up.
Because I was very impressed when I saw it, especially from week 2.
Well, last week for week 2, it was 11-5. And so the first week, I think, was 8-7-1. So quick math tells me that's 19-12-1?
11-5.
Yeah. But
in week 2.
But here's the thing.
You could have been 12-4.
Yes.
But what'd you do? You didn't take my boy Backdoor Burrow.
True. And I also took your Eagles.
Listen. Again, that goes without saying that's a bad bet. Because I think that that line started at Eagles plus money.
Yep.
Like they were underdogs, and then by the time Saturday, Sunday rolled around, it swung the other way. But man, listen, you brought up the two teams. This week, I know you're still yet to record now. Bengals plus 5.5.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? NFL early on, you always got to get your wins in early. The first couple weeks of the NFL season, everyone's still trying to figure things out.
Before Vegas kind of recalibrates.
Exactly. And this week 3, I'm telling you, people are things are going to blow up. The NFL, people's picks are going to be bad. Survivor pools are going to get messed up. If they're not already, which I know a lot of them were after week 1 when the Colts went down. But week 3, this is going to be a tough week. And you mentioned the pod, man. It's been a lot of fun just being able to kick things around. And the approach we take on it is kind of, I'm the casual gambler, right? So I'm trying to talk to the people going out to play their pro line tickets, or I'm trying to talk to the people who have their picks pool at work. And I just make my picks public like that. And the counter to that is bringing on a guy we both know who's now a professional bettor, Matt Russell, and, bringing him on board. The thing with that, sports betting professional, you're coming with different numbers. He's coming at it from a different numbers game. And, it's just trying to merge the two worlds of just gaining information. If you're going to go out and make the picks, at least be armed with some level of information. That's all we're trying to do. And he'll come on and tell me, hey, this is where the number started on Sunday. The number moved to this. This is what the sharps are doing. This is where the big money is in Vegas, right? Remember these trends. And he'll try to come and hit with those type of things, matching with me being like, yo, man, I'm riding with Cam and Belichick getting 3.5 points, right? So that's kind of the vibe we try to pick on the pod, and it's been a lot of fun, man. As mentioned, we give out survivor picks on the pool. We go through most of the big games and give out, I won't give out my picks on the pod, but what we do is I'll talk about what I'm thinking, and we'll kind of talk things out before I make the actual picks. Yeah,
talking that out and hearing those arguments back and forth with like a layman like you and me, just watching the games casually and having the professional, just getting those little bit of tidbits, man. I find it so useful, even just like the little like dollar bets that my dad and my cousin and I make.
But just like understanding too the difference in the number, right? And just how important it is, that extra half point sometimes. And those are the things we're trying to talk about. Those are the things we're trying to go through. We also give out survivor picks every week, right? We give out a sucker bet of the week in terms of, hey, this is what everyone thinks might happen, go the other way. So it's just a lot of fun, man. And, as you mentioned, Webby, the On Blast Podcast Network just continues to glow up.
Flourish.
We got basketball pods, we got football pods, and just know if you're ever looking for anything, On Blast Podcast is a network. This is Ball on Blast Podcast. That podcast, the football one, is called, still at this point, I'll name this football pod later. I don't know if I'm ever going to end up changing that because we're on to week 3 and I still haven't changed it yet. So
not unless you get the cease and desist from Budden. If you get that, then you might have to change.
Right. Well, he's on some bigger things now. As I see the Joe Budden Podcast Network or the Joe Budden Network, I see that's a thing now, which I got to go see. I just saw it posted, so I don't even know what it really is. But hey, maybe we can negotiate some things. But yeah, man, Webby, this has been a lot of fun, man. I'm glad we were able to squeeze in this podcast and get it done because tons going on in the NBA, whether it's on and off the court. The bubble continues to surpass my expectations in terms of...
I think everybody's expectations, really.
Yeah, and it's just been really great, and it's been a great time, and thanks again for tuning in and joining with me, Webby. But if the people want to hit you up for, some parenting tips, maybe your thoughts on Jamal Murray.
I need them. I need the parenting tips.
Some lessons on Kitchener, Ontario. Where can the people hit you up on social medias?
Yeah, absolutely. Please watch along the games with my daughter and I on Twitter, or come check out the Style Icon Ivy on Instagram. It's basically all I'm posting now. It's the same on Twitter and Instagram. The handle is @awebster84.
And you can find me on Twitter, same thing. We're live tweeting during the games for the most part. And you can find me on Twitter @ShellAlexander, on Instagram @Sheldon Alexander. And of course, you get this podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play, and of course on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Any of these places, just search On Blast Podcast. Again, that's the On Blast Podcast. We got a network of things, but this is called Ball on Blast, where we talk about everything going on in the NBA, the greatest league in the world. And I say this at the end. I know it's a Meek Millie line. I got the Dream Chasers hat here on the set because it means so much.
Yes.
I buy into the realness of the vibe. And so you might think it's just cliche, but I really mean it when I say it. I really did used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this. This is the Ball on Blast Podcast. As always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.
Peace.
This is Ball on Blast, part of the On Blast Podcast Network, available on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. If you like it, then subscribe and tell your friends. Holla.
On blast.